What's going on, fellas? And welcome back to Dell Tales. Definitely want to go over the first round of college football playoffs right here. This was actually quite an interesting weekend. I actually truly enjoyed it personally, and I'm hoping a lot of you guys enjoyed it as well. Now, some teams were obviously more dominant than others. Some teams simply could not keep up with other teams, but this is kind of the landscape of college football, man. It is what it is kind of thing. Now, of course, we got to start it off with Indiana and Notre Dame since this was the Friday night game. This one right here was definitely a defensive game to start off, but I was very confused about Kurt Signetti's coaching strategy in this game because, man, Indiana was just far too conservative. They did not come out to play their game. They kind of came out and played like they were playing Ohio State. They're conservative. They're not really running their offense. They're not letting their team execute in ways that they know that they can actually do to take advantage of, the weak points of Notre Dame's defense. They did nothing. They did none of that. And what's crazy to me is right after Indiana is moving the ball down the field, quarterback tries to force a pass in the middle, to someone that was double covered. He throws a pick right away. The very next play, Jeremiah Love takes the ball 98 yards rushing touchdown, to kind of kick off the scoring points for Notre Dame. So the entire frustrating part for this one, and there's a lot of frustration that happened this weekend, is Indiana gave up the momentum of the game 100% to Notre Dame. You know, they decided to want to run the ball up in the middle between the tackles. It didn't work. They tried to run the ball on the outside. It didn't work. Every pass was either a back shoulder pass on the sides or it was a crossing route up the middle that was double covered. It's not going to work. Okay. There are other things inside your playbook that are going to work. We come all the way down into the third quarter. I'm going to skip quite a bit of the game here, but we come all the way down into the third quarter. Indiana still cannot get momentum going at all. They started out with a sack on defense, and recover part three, redo this part. So we go all the way down into the third quarter, and Indiana still cannot get any momentum going on in this game whatsoever. They start out playing pretty well. Actually, the Notre Dame actually started out with a sack in this third quarter. And basically during that sack, I was like, you know what? This is actually going to be the story of the game. Indiana simply cannot move the ball. They're too predictable. They're too conservative. Notre Dame is just taking advantage of the fear of the coaches. That's pretty much what's going on. You know, we fast forward to the fourth quarter with about 3 minutes left, 3 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game. This, for some reason, was the time that Indiana's coaching staff decided, oh, well, maybe we can actually try to execute plays we know actually works. Don't you think it's a little too late for that? You know? And Indiana starts coming out with different plays, different route tree combinations, different rushing plays, different combinations, different running backs who are trying to get these rushing yards to actually stick. And guess what? They scored 17 unanswered points. If you were doing that all game, why did you wait until 3 minutes and 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter to realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe we can actually have a chance? Where was that at the entire game? Kurt Signetti, I don't know exactly what he was thinking or what his coaching staff was thinking, but when they go back to watch this game and they watch those last 3 minutes, they're going to be very frustrated with themselves because they're going to be like, why wasn't this the game plan? Or why didn't we change to this game plan? Clearly we had it. Clearly somebody thought about it. It didn't come out of nowhere. So why didn't we switch over to this game plan? I don't know, 10 minutes into the game or, after the first quarter or during the second quarter or maybe the beginning of the third quarter coming out of halftime. This was in somebody's back pocket and no one said a thing. And then in the fourth quarter, with 3 minutes left in a game that's do or die, you want to pull all this out and say, oh, we can actually win this game. Come on, guys. Come on. You guys are the professionals making the big money for a reason. You got something like this in your back pocket, it has to come out early so your team can have confidence and come back and win in this game. Indiana, truthfully, could have won this game, but they kind of beat themselves throughout the entire time. So my frustration for this entire college football weekend was really coaching, not even the players, which is kind of crazy. So I'm going to start it off with Penn State and SMU. So this is one of those games where, in all honesty, this might have been the coldest weather SMU played in all year. And for a lot of those players, I don't know exactly where they're from in the country. It's not like I know their entire roster, but a lot of them looks like this is the first cold game that they ever played in. But to add the cold, Happy Valley, and all the fans, I mean, more than 100,000 fans in that stadium. It was almost sold out. That's a tough environment to go into and play. You know, people think Penn State should not have dominated this game. Look, guys, I get Penn State lost to Oregon. I get they lost to Ohio State. This is a very good team. In all honesty, I think coaching is the reason why they're not going from great to elite quite yet. I think it's just coaching. And I'm not saying Franklin is a bad coach. Do not think that, because that's not what I'm saying. I think he's a good coach. I just think there's something missing where they can't get over that Ohio State and Michigan hump. And in this case, as well as Oregon. But let's not forget, Oregon beat Ohio State earlier in the year. Ohio State is going to get that chance to get them back. So, we'll see what ends up happening. But remember, just like I said, going into Happy Valley in front of that crowd, SMU better be glad this was not a night game. Because if this was a night game, you would have the complete whiteout under the lights. Even Urban Meyer has said this was the toughest environment he's ever coached in the Big Ten. By far, it's a tough environment to be in. So people have to really realize the Big Ten is not an easy place to play in, man, especially at Penn State, or if you end up in the big house at Michigan or inside the shoe, which you guys seen on Saturday night. These are not easy places to play in. So are we really shocked the way that this game actually turned out? Or is this kind of what was expected? You know, I kind of thought this game would go exactly the way it did, simply because the way I seen SMU play against Clemson in the ACC championship. Clemson simply dominated the game, and SMU was able to play throughout the season without playing a team of the caliber like SMU. Now, without playing a team with the caliber like Clemson, but SMU definitely did have Pittsburgh on their schedule. But after they beat Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh went on to lose a few games, so that team started to look a little bit different after they played. So that was a little different. But in all honesty, this one played out the way everybody expected. I'm not shocked that Penn State was able to dominate this game at all, especially being at home. I don't really think anybody else was either. So this one was pretty much a quick domination. Next up, we got Texas against Clemson. Now, this is kind of one of those weird games for me right here, man, because Clemson came out very effective. They came out aggressive. They're moving the ball down the field. They score on their very first drive. And then after that, they got very conservative. And I'm not exactly sure why that switch happened. I don't know if that was the players, or the play calling just kind of went downhill, or maybe they lost the battle too much in the trenches, which I think Texas definitely dominated the trenches in this game. But I don't know if this was more coaching or the players, and I'm kind of confused about that one. As I watched the game, I just noticed right after the first touchdown, Clemson slowed down far too much. Now, to be fair, this Texas defense might be the best defense in the country. To be fair, these guys are good. Um, but for Clemson giving up 21 points in the second quarter, Texas kind of started running away with the game. Now, Clemson kind of woke up in the third quarter where they were able to score a touchdown, and then in the fourth quarter, they were able to score a touchdown, which closed the game down within 7 points. But then the nail in the coffin was that 77-yard rush from Texas, to go up 14 points again. And, you know, that was it. That was it. That was the last score of the game. And when that happened, there was still about 12 minutes left in the game, which is kind of crazy. That's plenty of time for Clemson to come up with a game plan to actually come back in this game and push for overtime, or at least worst case scenario, make it a lot closer than 14 points that it was. So this is just one of those games again where you're coming out, it's do or die, and it's do or die. You can't sit there and be conservative. That's just not an option. And we've seen that way too much this weekend, especially this Saturday, you know? It's just not an option in my own head. And I don't know what some of these coaches are thinking, but they're coming out and just not playing their team's best game. They're not giving their team the best chance to actually win. And that part can be very frustrating for the fan bases and even for the players on the field, because the players are looking at the coaches like, what do you want us to do? You know, you're not putting us in positions to actually win. And when we have suggestions, you're like, oh no, you're the player for a reason. I'm the coach for a reason. So just listen to me. But I, I think a game like this, like with Clemson and Texas, would have been much more competitive if Clemson did not soften up so much after the first drive. You know, but they did not take, and they did not take advantage of everything Texas was actually giving them on defense because of how conservative they ended up being. You know, the second quarter was definitely a defining quarter of the game, like I said, but in the third and then the fourth quarter, with 3 minutes left, just about, no, maybe no, with 12 minutes left, is when Clemson decided to say, okay, hey, let's try to actually win this game. You should have been doing it all game. I don't know why you were not doing it, but you should have been. Game of the night: Ohio State, Tennessee. Tennessee visiting Ohio State. So this is one of those games where it reminds me why I'm so frustrated with Ohio State. And I'm a Buckeye. I'm a Buckeye fan. I'm a Buckeye. But my frustration with Ohio State is not has nothing to do with the team. It has nothing to do with the players, is what I should say. My entire frustration has to do with Ryan Day. Okay. The reason why I'm so frustrated with Ryan Day is the success of this team truly comes down to one thing: which Ryan Day shows up every Saturday. Ryan Day, you got the best football roster in America. No one is questioning that. No one even argues it. We know you have the best roster in America. When you come out confident, ready to win a game, you know, just wake up on the right side of the bed. I don't know what the it factors are, but let's just say confident and ready to win the game. Your record speaks for itself. When you know the other team on the other side has a chance to beat you, you get conservative. You start to pretend like you don't trust your team anymore. It's almost as if you lose these games not because your players could not win them. You lose these games because you're far too conservative and you get outcoached by the other coaches. All of your losses has kind of been the same story. Just hang in there, you know? When in all honesty, most of your losses could have been victories if we're just being completely honest, you know, even um, that's the frustrating part. Even against Michigan, if we look at this last game against Michigan, why were you so conservative? You are many times better than that Michigan team. That should have been a game you dominated extremely easily, but you came out flat footed. The play calling was not really that great. The defense couldn't get off the field. There was just a lot of things going on. And for me, it was which version of Ryan Day we get. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what happened this past Saturday. I really don't know. But I don't know what was said to Ryan Day. I'm not sure what, prompted him up to be this coach that we know he can be, that we know he is. I don't know what propped up his coaching staff, even Chip Kelly. But whatever it was, put it on a plaque, put it on a painting, put it in your office, hang it up. This lit a fire under their asses. I don't know what happened, but whatever it was, use that as fuel to the fire. You have the best team in the country by talent basis. Just use that. What's wrong with that idea? Just use your team the way you know it can be used. Trust your players. Trust them to go out there and win the battles one on one. Trust them to go out there and be victorious. Trust them to go out there and execute. Do not limit them by being far too conservative because you're worried about what may happen on the other side. With this team and this receiving core that you got, you can blow the top off of any defense in the country. Jeremiah Smith is so good, actually, that we tend to forget about Carnell Tate. We tend to forget about Emeka Egbuka. who Emeka, by the way, let's not forget, might be a top 5 pick in this NFL draft. If one of those teams needs a receiver, he's gone. Some people almost look at Emeka now as an afterthought because of Jeremiah Smith. Let's be perfectly clear. Emeka Egbuka is one of the best receivers in college football. So if you want to call him an afterthought, he's the best afterthought we've probably ever seen in college football. This is insane. Use the players that you have. On top of that, there are receivers on the bench that can come in and give those guys a break. The defense this weekend, man, they showed up. Like, I think this is their best showing all year. They played in a way that we have yet to see them play all season. They were dominant in the trenches. They put pressure on the quarterback without having to blitz too many linebackers. You were able to spy the quarterback. Now, listen, Tennessee's quarterback can scramble. It is what it is. He got away with it a few times. It is what it is. We just have to accept that. But he had to make things happen with his own feet. He couldn't throw the ball because of all the pressure that was in front of him. But this is something that was missing against Oregon earlier in the season. The Buckeye defense simply could not get to Dylan Gabriel, which is the reason why he was able to sit in the pocket and pick them apart. And when he was able to scramble, he ran for a touchdown. If we see this defense against Oregon and this offense against Oregon's defense, it's going to be a great day. So this is why I come back to, I don't think the Buckeye fans actually want Ryan Day to be fired. I don't think that's actually the case. I think what's going on is we don't know which version of Ryan Day will show up every Saturday. If it's this Ryan Day, this Ohio State Buckeye team are national champions this year. If you show up like this for the next few games, you're going to be a national champion, period. If conservative Ryan Day shows up, I'm not exactly sure what I will say to you. I will be completely confused and not exactly know what to say. But the entire frustration for this Ohio State team is which Ryan Day will show up. That's all we want to know. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. Definitely like and subscribe, and we will have much more coming for you. Have a good one.